My name is Juliet Sinclair. I'm 35. Last New Year's Eve at 8:47 p.m., I stood in my parents' dining room holding a champagne flute I hadn't touched while my brother Cole looked across the holiday table and said, 35 and still not married. Must be rough spending New Year's alone, huh, old maid? My mother laughed. Not a polite laugh. A real one. My father cut another slice of prime rib and said nothing. Cole's wife Brooke stared at her plate like the china pattern held answers. I felt my throat close. My face burned so hot I could feel my pulse behind my eyes. The crystal stem in my hand was slick with condensation, and I focused on that, the cold wetness against my palm, because if I looked at Cole's smug face, I would say something I couldn't take back. Well? Cole leaned back in his chair, swirling his bourbon. Nothing to say? No witty comeback from the big shot lawyer? I set down my glass. Carefully. I'm not alone, Cole. Right, he snorted. Work doesn't count as companionship, Jules. You know that, right? Billable hours aren't the same as an actual relationship. My mother touched his arm, gently, proudly. Cole, don't tease your sister. But she was smiling. Before I go on, if stories about standing up for yourself mean something to you, please hit like and subscribe and tell me in the comments where you're watching from right now and what time is it there. This wasn't the first time. It was never the first time with Cole. Let me take you back 3 years, to the moment I realized my family would never see me. I was 32. I'd just made junior partner at Whitfield and Associates, one of the most competitive corporate law firms in Boston. I'd closed a $340 million merger that quarter. My name was on the deal memo. The clients requested me personally for their next acquisition. I drove 4 hours home to tell my parents in person. I walked into the kitchen at 6:14 p.m. on a Saturday. My mother was arranging tulips in a vase. My father was reading the newspaper at the table. Cole was there too, visiting with Brooke and their 2 kids. I made junior partner, I said. My mother looked up. That's nice, dear. Then turning to Cole. Did you tell them about your promotion? Cole grinned. Regional sales manager. They're giving me the whole Northeast Territory. My father folded his newspaper. Now that's an accomplishment. Real leadership. I stood there holding my briefcase. My hands were shaking, but I kept my voice level. I worked 80-hour weeks for 3 years to make partner, the youngest woman in the firm's history. Mm-hmm. My mother moved a tulip to the left. Cole's managing 17 people now, 17 direct reports. Can you imagine the responsibility? I could imagine it. I was managing $2.4 billion in client assets. Cole walked over and clapped me on the shoulder. Don't feel bad, Jules. Not everyone's cut out for real relationships. Career's a fine substitute. He lowered his voice like he was sharing a secret. Better than dying alone, I guess. I went back to Boston that night. I didn't stay for dinner. That was the same year I married Graham. We met during a negotiation. He was the opposing counsel on a licensing deal. Sharp, funny, never talked down to me. After we closed the deal, both our clients happy, he asked me to dinner. Just dinner, he said. No shop talk, no precedents, no case law, just 2 people who happen to like arguing for a living. We dated for 8 months. He proposed on a Tuesday morning before work. No grand gesture, no restaurant, just coffee in his apartment and a simple question. Want to actually do this? I said yes before he finished the sentence. We got married in Napa Valley. 23 people. His parents, his sister, our closest friends. No one from my family. I didn't tell them. Graham asked me once, early on, why I kept it secret. We were in bed, his hand tracing circles on my shoulder. You know I'd go to Sunday dinner with you, meet your parents, do the whole thing. I know, I said. So why don't we? I was quiet for a long time, then, because the second they know I'm happy, they'll find a way to make it about how I'm not. He kissed my forehead. That's the saddest thing I've ever heard. Yeah, I said. It is. So we built a life in secret, a good life. We bought a brownstone in Back Bay. We traveled Rome, Barcelona, Tokyo. We adopted a rescue dog named Scout. We hosted dinner parties. We were happy. And my family never knew. Every Sunday I'd drive to their house for dinner. I'd sit at that table and listen to Cole talk about his kids' soccer games, and Brooke's PTA meetings and their new deck and their vacation plans. My mother would ask me if I was seeing anyone special with that pitying tone that made my stomach turn. My father would mention casually that his colleague's daughter just got engaged, and I'd smile and say, "Not yet, and I'm focused on work, and maybe someday." Cole's favorite line, the one he used at every gathering like a comedian with a signature bit, was, "Better hurry up, Jules, clock's ticking. Don't want to end up the sad aunt who brings wine to everyone else's kids' graduations." He said it at Easter, at Thanksgiving, at my mother's birthday dinner. Every single time my parents laughed. The worst part wasn't the mockery, it was how much they needed it. I started noticing things, little things that added up. When I mentioned a big case win, my mother would interrupt to ask Cole about his weekend plans. When I was promoted to lead counsel on a Fortune 500 account, my father changed the subject to Cole's golf handicap. When I sent them an article about a panel I spoke on at a legal conference, my mother texted back, "Saw Cole's son made honor roll." It wasn't that they hated me, it was worse. They needed me to be less so Cole could be more. I was 33 when I realized they'd been doing it my whole life. I found a box of old school photos in their attic during Christmas. My mother asked me to grab the decorations. I found the box underneath a dusty quilt. Every single photo of me, honor roll certificates, debate team trophies, college acceptance letters, was bent or torn at the corners, shoved in carelessly. Cole's photos were in albums, chronological, labeled. I sat on that attic floor for 20 minutes, holding my high school valedictorian certificate. There was a water stain across my name. Something hardened in me that day, but I didn't say anything. I put the box back. I brought down the decorations. I smiled through dinner. Graham noticed when I got home. I was quieter than usual. "What happened?" he asked. "Nothing," I said. Then, everything. I told him about the box, the bent photos, the pattern I'd been too close to see. He pulled me into his arms. "You don't owe them anything, Jules. You know that, right?" "I know," I said. But I kept going back. The public humiliation came 6 months later. I was 34. I was having lunch at a cafe near my office, corner table, reviewing a contract on my laptop. The place was packed, probably 30 people, mostly business crowd, everyone on their phones or in meetings. Cole walked in. I saw him before he saw me. He was with 3 colleagues from his company, loud, laughing, that particular brand of salesman confidence. Then he spotted me. "Juliet!" He came over, his colleagues trailing behind. "Look at this. My baby sister. All alone. Again." I kept my eyes on my screen. "Hi, Cole." "Working through lunch?" He leaned on my table, his cologne too strong. "That's so sad. You know what's sadder? That I'm not even surprised." He turned to his colleagues. "This is my sister, 34 years old, never been married, probably never will be, married to her career." He tapped my laptop. "This is her boyfriend, Dell." His colleagues laughed. Uncomfortable, but they laughed. I looked up at him. My face was completely calm. "You done?" "I'm just saying, Jules. There's more to life than work. Look at me. Beautiful wife, 2 great kids, actual human connections. Maybe if you put yourself out there." "I have a meeting in 10 minutes, I said. "Was there something you needed?" His smile faltered, just for a second. "Jesus, you really are married to this shit, aren't you?" I closed my laptop. I gathered my things. I stood up. Something in his face changed. He'd expected tears or anger or defense. He got nothing. I walked past him without another word. One of his colleagues muttered, "Dude, that was harsh." I heard Cole laugh it off. "She's fine. She's always fine. That's the problem." But I wasn't fine. I was done. That night, I told Graham everything. Not just about the cafe, about all of it. The years of diminishment, the constant comparisons, the way they needed me to be alone so Cole could be the success story. What do you want to do? Graham asked. I want to stop pretending, I said. Then stop, he said. But I didn't. Not yet. Because 3 days later, my mother called. We're having a New Year's Eve dinner, she said. Just family. You'll come, won't you? It's been so long since we've all been together. It hadn't been long. It had been 12 days, but I said yes, because I knew. I knew this was going to be the last one. I spent the next 6 months preparing. Not revenge, just truth. I gathered everything. Wedding photos from Napa Valley. Graham and me on the vineyard. My dress simple and ivory. His smile so genuine it still made my chest ache. Photos of our home, our dog, our life. Receipts from our honeymoon in Barcelona. The deed to our brownstone, both our names on it. 5 years of evidence that I wasn't who they said I was. I didn't tell Graham my plan. Not exactly. I just said, I think I'm going to tell them about us. About time, he said, then worried. You okay? I will be, I said. New Year's Eve came. I drove to my parents' house alone. Graham offered to come. I told him no. This is something I need to do myself. I arrived at 6:30 p.m. The house smelled like rosemary and roasted garlic. Classical music played softly. Everything looked perfect, the way my mother always made it look. Cole was already there with Brooke and the kids. My parents were in the kitchen, my father opening wine. Juliet, my mother hugged me. Brief, obligatory. You're early. Traffic was light, I said. Dinner was the usual performance. My mother asked about Cole's year. He talked for 20 minutes about a sales award. My father beamed. Brooke smiled. The kids were on their tablets. No one asked about my year. At 8:30, my mother brought out dessert. Chocolate torte. 4 candles, one for each decade of the new year we were about to enter. Let's go around the table, my mother said. Everyone share their highlight of the year. Cole went first. Got that promotion. Closed the biggest deal in company history. $4.2 million. Pretty proud of that. My father raised his glass. To Cole. Everyone clinked glasses. Except me. My mother went next. Some charity work. A trip to Hilton Head. My father talked about his golf game. Brooke mentioned the kids' achievements. Then my mother turned to me. Juliet, anything exciting this year? I set down my fork. Actually, yes. Cole smirked. Let me guess. Another promotion, another case, another... I got married, I said. Silence. Complete, total silence. My mother's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. My father's wineglass paused mid-air. Cole's smirk froze. What? My mother said. I got married. 5 years ago, actually. I pulled out my phone. Slowly, calmly. Let me show you. I opened my photos, the album I'd prepared. I turned my phone to face them. Wedding photo. Graham and me under an oak tree. Golden hour light. His hand on my waist, my head on his shoulder. I swiped. Our honeymoon in Barcelona. Sagrada Familia behind us. Swipe. Our brownstone. The brick facade. The window boxes I planted. Swipe. Graham and me in our kitchen. Scout between us. All 3 of us laughing. Swipe. Last Christmas. Graham's family. Me in a ridiculous sweater his mother made, surrounded by people who actually asked about my work. I kept swiping. The table was silent. 5 years? My mother whispered. 5 years, I confirmed. Cole found his voice first. You're lying. I looked at him. Am I? Why wouldn't you tell us? My father said. I put my phone down. Because I knew what you'd do. You'd find a way to make it about how I still wasn't enough. How his family was better, or how I married too late, or how I should have had kids by now, or... I stopped. Took a breath. I didn't tell you because I wanted one thing in my life that you couldn't diminish. That's not fair, my mother said. Isn't it? I pulled up another photo. This is from 3 years ago, the day I made junior partner. I came here to tell you. Cole announced his promotion. You spent 2 hours talking about his management skills. I left before dessert. That night, Graham took me to our favorite restaurant. He'd already made reservations because he knew. He knew you'd do exactly what you did. Jesus Christ, Cole said. You're really going to make this about you? On New Year's Eve? No, I said quietly. I'm going to make this about the truth. I swiped to another photo. This is my office. Whitfield and Associates. I'm a senior partner now. Have been for 8 months. I manage 14 associates. I closed $890 million in deals last year. I spoke at 3 conferences. I was quoted in the Wall Street Journal. I looked at my father. You never asked. We ask about your work all the time, my mother protested. You ask if I'm busy, I said. That's not the same thing. I swiped again. This is Graham. He's a partner at Morrison and Forster, tax law. We met during a negotiation. He's brilliant and kind and funny. His family asks about my cases. They remember my clients' names. They celebrate my wins. I looked at my mother. They know I exist. Brooke was crying quietly. My father was staring at his plate. Cole's face was red. So what? You're just going to sit here and lecture us? Make us feel like shit because you've been lying for 5 years? I haven't been lying, I said. I've been protecting myself. From what? Cole demanded. From this. I gestured at the table. From the way you need me to be alone so you can be the golden child. From the way Mom changes the subject every time I succeed. From the way Dad compares me to other people's daughters instead of asking about my life. From the way you... I looked directly at Cole. Have made a hobby out of mocking my happiness. I was joking, Cole said. His voice was smaller now. You weren't, I said. You never were. I stood up, carefully, calmly. I gathered my coat from the back of the chair. Where are you going? My mother asked. Home, I said. To my husband. We're hosting a party tonight, 15 people, friends from work, neighbors, Graham's college roommate and his wife, people who actually care about my life. Juliet, wait, my father started. I'm not angry, I said. I'm really not. I'm just done pretending that someday you'll see me. You won't, you can't, because you need me to be less so Cole can be more, and I don't want to be less anymore. I walked to the door. Behind me I heard my mother say, She's being dramatic. I stopped, turned around. No. Dramatic would have been inviting Graham tonight and introducing him as a surprise. Dramatic would have been announcing my marriage at Cole's wedding. Dramatic would have been making you feel as small as you've made me feel my entire life. I zipped my coat. This is just me telling you the truth and leaving. Cole stood up. Jules, come on, don't... 35 and still not married, I quoted back to him. His own words from earlier. Must be rough spending New Year's alone, huh? Old maid? I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile. I've been married longer than you have, Cole, and I'm happier than you'll ever be. Not because I have a husband, but because I have people in my life who don't need me to fail so they can succeed. I opened the door. Cold air rushed in. Outside, I could see my car in the driveway. Beyond that, the lights of neighbors' houses, people celebrating. If any of you want to meet Graham, I said, my number hasn't changed, but I'm done coming to dinners where I don't exist. I walked out. I got in my car. My hands were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to start the engine. Then I drove home. Graham was in the kitchen when I arrived at 9:43 p.m. He was arranging cheese on a platter, Scout at his feet hoping for dropped crackers. He looked up when I came in. How did it... He stopped, saw my face. Come here. I walked into his arms. I didn't cry. I just stood there letting him hold me. You told them, he said. I told them, I confirmed. And? And I left. He pulled back to look at me. You okay? I will be, I said. Then, I am. Our doorbell rang, friends arriving, voices and laughter and the warmth of people who chose to be there. Graham kissed my forehead. Ready? Yeah, I said. I'm ready. We spent New Year's Eve surrounded by people who knew my whole story, who'd heard about my cases and asked follow-up questions, who toasted my promotion and meant it, who, when midnight came, hugged me like I mattered. At 12:07 a.m., my phone buzzed, a text from my mother. That was uncalled for. You embarrassed us in front of Cole's family. I deleted it. At 12:09, Cole, you're being selfish. Deleted. At 12:15, my father. We should talk about this when you've calmed down. I turned off my phone. Graham found me on the couch 20 minutes later. Everyone had left. The apartment was quiet except for Scout snoring in his bed. You good? Graham asked. I nodded. I'm good. 3 days later, Cole called. I didn't answer. He left a voicemail. Jules, come on. Mom's upset. Dad thinks you're having some kind of breakdown. Just call me back. We can figure this out. I didn't call back. A week later, my mother sent an email. Subject line, Family is forever. I didn't open it. 2 weeks after New Year's, my father showed up at my office. My assistant buzzed me. Your father's here. He doesn't have an appointment. Tell him I'm in a meeting, I said. He says he'll wait. I went out to the lobby. My father stood by the window, looking uncomfortable in his weekend coat among all the suits. Hi, Dad, I said. Juliet. He looked older somehow. Tired. Can we talk? I'm actually in the middle of 5 minutes, he said. Please. I led him to a conference room. We sat across from each other at the long table. I didn't realize, he said finally, how we made you feel. I didn't say anything. Your mother and I were very proud of Cole. His success means a lot to us, but that doesn't mean... He stopped, started again. We love you, Juliet. Do you? I asked. Not angry, just curious. Of course we do. What's my favorite case I've worked on? I asked. He blinked. What? My favorite case, what is it? Silence. What firm do I work for? I asked. Whitfield and Associates, he said quickly. What do I do there? You're a lawyer. Corporate law. What does that mean? I pressed. What do corporate lawyers do? He opened his mouth, closed it. You don't know, I said gently, because you've never asked. In 12 years of practicing law, you've never once asked me what I actually do. That's not... What's Graham's last name? I asked. Silence. Where did we get married? Nothing. How long have we been together? My father looked at his hands. I told you all of this 3 days ago, I said. You were sitting right there, and you still don't remember, because you weren't listening. You were thinking about how to fix the embarrassment. Not about the fact that I've been married for 5 years, and you didn't know I was happy. I want to know now, he said quietly. It's too late, I said. Not cruel, just honest. I spent 35 years trying to make you see me. I'm done trying. If you want to know me, you have to actually want to know me. Not because I made a scene at dinner, not because you feel guilty, but because you care about my life as much as you care about Cole's. I stood up. I have to get back to work. You know the way out. Juliet, if you want to meet Graham, I said, call me. Actually call, not to apologize, not to lecture me about family, just to say you'd like to meet my husband. And if you do that, we can have coffee, somewhere neutral, and we can start from there. My father nodded. He looked like he wanted to say more. I waited. He didn't. I went back to my office. He called 2 weeks later. I'd like to meet Graham, he said. If you'd be willing. Okay, I said. We met for coffee. Just the 3 of us. Graham was nervous. I could tell by the way he kept straightening his tie. My father was quieter than usual. "What do you do?" my father asked Graham. Graham explained tax law, mergers and acquisitions, the complexity of corporate structures. My father listened, actually listened, asked follow-up questions. Then he turned to me. "And your current caseload?" I almost dropped my coffee cup. I told him about the pharmaceutical merger I was working on, the regulatory complications, the international jurisdictions involved. He asked 3 more questions, specific ones, good ones. When we left an hour later, Graham took my hand in the parking lot. "That was something," he said. "Yeah," I said. "Think it'll stick?" "I don't know," I said honestly. "Maybe, maybe not. But at least now I know I can walk away if it doesn't." 6 months passed. My father calls once a week now. Short calls. Awkward sometimes. But he asks about my cases. He remembers details. My mother sends emails, brief ones. She hasn't apologized, but she's trying in her way. Cole and I don't talk. He sent one text. "I didn't mean it like that." I replied, "Yes, you did." He hasn't reached out since. Brooke called me once. "I'm sorry I never said anything," she said. At the dinners. When he'd make those jokes, I should have said something. "Yeah," I said. "You should have." "I was scared," she admitted. "I know," I said. Because I did know. I'd been scared too. But being scared doesn't make it okay. "No," she said. "It doesn't." We talk sometimes now. Not often, but sometimes. I'm writing this from my office. It's 3:17 p.m. on a Tuesday. I have a client call in 40 minutes and a brief due tomorrow. Scout is asleep under my desk because I brought him to work today. Graham texted me 20 minutes ago. "Dinner at 7? That new Thai place?" My life looks exactly like it did a year ago. Same job, same apartment, same dog, same husband. But everything is different. Because I'm not performing anymore. I'm not pretending to be less so someone else can be more. I'm not waiting for people to see me who are never going to look. If you're watching this and you've ever kept yourself small to make someone else comfortable, I want you to know something. You don't owe anyone your silence. You don't owe anyone your diminishment. And you definitely don't owe anyone a relationship that costs you your peace. Love isn't supposed to hurt. Family isn't supposed to make you feel invisible. And success isn't a competition where only one person gets to win. If you've ever had to choose between being seen and keeping the peace, type "I chose myself" in the comments. Or if you're still trying to figure out how to make that choice, type "I'm working on it." Both are valid. Both are brave. If this story meant something to you, check the description for more stories just like this one. Thank you for being here. Happy New Year whenever you're watching this.